Let me just start off by saying that these fortune cookies go absolutely hard. I was expecting a tiny little delicious treat, but instead I'm getting like some legit real world wisdom. If you're ever feeling lost in the world and you need some really good advice, just open up a fortune cookie. I'm actually genuinely curious to see who is actually writing these fortune cookie truth bombs. Is Master Oogway or like Master Splinter somewhere back there writing these out or printing these? Because these legitimately cut incredibly deep. Make sure to have a box of tissues ready at your disposal because you will definitely be shedding some tears. Anyways, all buffoonery aside, let's get straight into today's video because we do actually have some pretty serious things to talk about. And yes, I'm referring to action figures, okay? You can definitely have some very serious conversations regarding action figures, okay? But yes, I did want to talk about that 1966 Batmobile. This is, I guess, kind of a retooled version of the original one. I know for a fact this one's supposed to be a little bit longer and wider, and it's going to actually fit the action figures a little bit less snug, you know, compared to the original one, which I think a lot of people had problems actually, you know, porting their Batman action figures in there. I'm not sure if this is going to fit closer to the 7-inch line. Like, is this meant to fit in with the Adam West that we got like a year ago? It was a part of that DC Multiverse action figure line, if I'm not mistaken. It came with all the bells and whistles, double jointed knees, double jointed elbows, all the cuts, all the extra accessories. Did it come with a wired cape? If I'm not mistaken, it did come with a wired cloth cape. So and it was, I mean, great likeness to the late Adam West. It was a phenomenal looking figure. But I think the original one was meant for his retro line, which has very minimal articulation. I think they scale at about like 6 inches, but the figures usually have like, I don't know, 5-6 points of articulation. But I think this Batmobile is actually meant to fit with his 1/10 scale or his 7-inch DC Multiverse action figure line, which I don't know, doesn't really make a lot of sense because he hasn't had a lot of 7-inch action figures or 7-inch scale action figures based on the 1966 live action Adam West show. So I'm not sure exactly why he would go out of his way to actually manufacture the Batmobile, but here you guys have it. It will retail for about $80, which honestly isn't like the most ridiculous price point. I think most of his vehicles are priced at about $80. I think all the Batmobiles that we've received up to this point, aside from maybe the Tumbler, which was a little bit more expensive, but everything else that we've seen, like the Batman Forever, there was that Robert Pattinson Universe Batmobile, which also was available about that same price point. I think that one you have to pay for shipping. Here, I think if you order through certain retailers, you can get the free shipping because of the price of the vehicle. So it's going to retail about for $80. I think some places might have it marked up a little bit more, a little bit less. It just depends. That's the era that we live in. A lot of the smaller retailers will have it for a little bit of a higher price point, and then the others, it will be, you know, a little bit more adequately priced. Regardless, the figure or the vehicle has now gone up for pre-order if you guys are interested in picking it up. It's not like extremely detailed. There are some decals here and there, and you know, some intricate details on the dashboard and things of that nature, but it is a pretty simplistic approach to a 66 Batmobile. But then again, I kind of like it because if he had gone all out, if he had made like a HasLab style vehicle with, you know, maybe some light up features, or maybe it made some like sound effects or something along those lines, then maybe he would have had to mark up the vehicle even higher to like well over $100, maybe $150 to $180. So I think this is kind of like up everybody's wheelhouse if you just want a good solid Batman vehicle in your display, even if you're not going to jump that deep into the 66 universe, which obviously you can't really do at this point because only the Adam West Batman has been featured at that scale that can actually fit with this vehicle. But if you just want like a really good background vehicle, I think this is a really good option for you. I think this actually opens up the door of possibilities here because in the foreseeable future, I think McFarlane, or I should say, I think his plans are to continue fleshing out the 1966 Batman universe in the 7-inch scale. I think eventually he does plan on making a Robin, a Penguin, a Joker, all of the iconic characters, and maybe just a little self-encapsulated wave. But, you know, we all know that there's a time constraint going on. He is supposed to only have the license going into 2026. I'm not sure exactly when he, you know, officially loses the license, but it's right around the corner, so it might not happen. But him giving us a Batmobile that's 7-inch scale for the 1966 universe. I think it would be a huge wasted opportunity to not actually fully flesh out a collection there. So I think his plans are to give us more characters. I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen, but it's still really interesting. As I said, if you guys are interested in picking it up, it's now up for pre-order for about $80. Next up, I did want to talk about the Mafex Batman from the Flash universe. This is kind of one of the most underrated versions of Batman, in my personal opinion. Let's not forget, this is Ben Affleck as Batman, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the Flash movie. It's like the most accurate comic book representation of the DC cinematic universe. I know it's not great, but I actually enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it, my kids. It's a really good movie. For those people that kind of just went off of the critical assessment, I feel like you're definitely missing out on a great DC movie. Having said all of that, this figure looks absolutely amazing. One of the main things that I really like about it is the way that the, like, what's supposed to be fabric suit kind of blends really well with the armored parts of the suit. From afar, it kind of looks like a Mezco figure. It looks like some of those little texturing details on the suit are actually soft goods. I just think they did a really good job of engineering the figure and sculpting it, and something that you don't usually see from Mafex. Another point to emphasize is, well, the figure does have great source material. Like the suit itself, I know a lot of people bashed it, but I actually like the functionality of it, even though most of the film where Ben Affleck is featured in a bat suit is CGI. It's not him actually in the suit, but as I said, the original source material just did a great job of compounding all of the great elements that a Batman suit requires. This is going to come with a wired soft cape. It's going to come with 3 head sculpts altogether, alternate hands, a grapple gun, as well as a batarang. So we have seen a number of different manufacturers pick up this particular version of Batman. I think we saw McFarlane do it. I want to say maybe Mezco has done a version based on the Snyderverse at least. So it's nice to see, you know, this version of Batman just continue to get a ton of love. I know it's definitely one of the most disrespected iterations of Batman, but honestly, it's just a really good, solid movie. And if you haven't checked it out, I definitely suggest you do so. But this action figure, honestly, is just really well put together. Now, the promotional images really don't do a great job of showcasing like the full range of motion or articulation for this particular figure. So it could be really well articulated. It may not be. It just depends on the angle of the figure, but I think it's okay that it isn't like super hyper articulated. It's a Batman figure. You're going to run into some of those problems. We've seen McFarlane just do away with worrying too much about articulation, and it's because a lot of those realistic takes on Batman, some of the suits are just very cumbersome and they limit the range of motion for the actors themselves. So it just makes sense that the action figure wouldn't necessarily get into some crazy dynamic poses. And I think that's exactly what you might run into with this figure, but that's okay. I don't think we're expecting anything too crazy. But as I said, the sculpt work, the design on the suit is absolutely top notch. It's an absolute chef's kiss here. I can't speak highly enough, at least of the appearance of the figure. Like I said, once we actually see in-hand reviews and once we actually see some photographs of the figure in person, then maybe our perspective will change a little bit. But as of the moment of this recording, this figure looks absolutely phenomenal. If you guys are interested, it is now up for pre-order. Lastly, I did want to touch a little bit on the new Hiya Toys Mega Man X action figure. And I know I've been essentially glazing the last couple of manufacturers that we've talked about, but this is just an amazing offering. I didn't know Hiya Toys was going to start doing 1/12 scale Mega Man action figures. If I'm not mistaken, there are already a couple of different manufacturers working on this. I believe 3-0 is making action figures based on the Mega Man X universe, and then Jada Toys is working on the old school Mega Man action figures as well. And I think both of them are about like 1/12 scale. So it's just interesting to see yet another manufacturer working on Mega Man collectibles. This one is supposed to be, I think, a little bit under 6 inches, so it falls within that 1/12 scale range, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly how the Mega Man characters are supposed to scale next to like a modern 12-inch, or I should say a modern 1/12 scale action figure or character, but I'm going to assume they're about the same size here. The figure does come with 8 hands total, a grand total of 4 different face plates, his little hand cannon, and then there will also be a little blast effect piece that will be ported onto a stand, as well as a base. And we have seen that pretty consistently from a lot of the overseas manufacturers. They love making stands for their effect pieces. I think Jada Toys is probably one of the big players that actually brought it to the States. Before, as I mentioned, it was just imported action figure lines. Now we've seen other manufacturers kind of jump in on it. I personally do appreciate it. I really like it. It adds another option when it comes down to displaying your figure. And I just mentioned how the Batman Mafex action figure just seems so seamless and so well engineered. Like, you can't really see some of the articulation points, and that's exactly what I see from this particular Mega Man action figure. Like, the articulation is just so well hidden. I think this is going to be one of those figures that just photographs so well. Not to mention the articulation here does appear to be pretty solid. I'd actually like to see it in hand compared to the 3-0 action figure line and then the Jada Toys action figure line, and just kind of see the differences and then which manufacturer is like the end all when it comes down to Mega Man collectibles. So moving forward, hopefully we get to see more videos, you get to see more digital renders, or maybe there's a convention somewhere where they actually have these displayed. I'm very much looking forward to it because I did grow up playing a lot of Mega Man, and honestly most of the games that I played were Mega Man X related. So this is definitely up my wheelhouse, and I'm definitely going to keep an eye on these. I don't think that I've ever owned a Hiya Toys action figure, so it's definitely going to be a first for me. I have seen them work a lot on the 1/18th scale, and it was a breath of fresh air to kind of see them move into the 1/12 scale, even though at this point they haven't really worked on the source material that I personally really want to collect. And also, these are considerably more expensive than your regular like 1/12 scale action figures. Yes, they do come with a few extra accessories and things of that nature, but it's also worth mentioning when factoring in what it is that you're going to purchase. Jada Toys is always on the lower end. 3-0 is right above it, and then apparently Hiya Toys is going to be closer to like that $60 to $70 price point. But as always, this is just my personal opinion, my personal take. I'm very curious to see what all of you guys have to say. Let me know down below in the comment section. As always, make sure to stay tuned. We are uploading on a daily basis, and it's a bunch of essentially this. It's just a bunch of random rambling about action figures and why we hate them or why we love them. So let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay safe out there, enjoy the hobby, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.